What even is Demonio Fleur? Is it Haki? Is it an awakening? Is Robin secretly a demon, or is demon secretly a Robin? All of these questions, except for the last, will be answered. Because this ability is just confusing, and we can't really seem to come to a consensus on it. Although one thing that seems clear to me personally is that Demonio is not a standard application of Robin's Devil Fruit. There is something more happening here, but the question is what that more is. And to explain what Demonio is, we need to understand Robin's evolution to that point. Right before Demonio, Robin performed the Gigante Fleur ability, which seemed like the culmination of Robin's Devil Fruit, or at least her progress to that point. The Hana Hana no Mi gives Robin the ability to sprout extra limbs right out of the box. It's very fun. However, Robin had to really work to evolve her powers, which eventually split down two skill paths. Robin eventually unlocked the power to use many small limbs to create giant limbs. Think of it as weaving them together to craft a more powerful construct that looks like a single limb from afar. And down the other path, Robin's mastery of sproutage reached a point where she could create multiple limb spawning and eventually the creation of full body clones rather than just limbs alone. These two paths split off during Robin's development, but eventually linked up back together to create Gigante Fleur, where Robin creates a giant topless clone of herself. I point out the toplessness because it's implied that Robin didn't need to do that as her previous clones were all fully clothed. So this is a design choice. Also, Oda said in the SPS of Volume 102 that the growths on Robin's chest were actually onions, not breasts. So do with that information what you will. Of every question Oda elected to answer about the Robin versus Black Maria fight, of course he went with the boob question rather than any of the crazy demon stuff. And Demonio is a very confusing further evolution. At first glance, it's quite similar to Gigante Fleur because it's just another big old Robin with some dark demonic features. You could even make the argument that her demon wings are also a natural evolution because another of Robin's key focuses was using many arms to create wings for herself. But the immediate thought with Demonio, at least in the manga, is that this is a form where Robin incorporates Haki, like the way that Luffy uses armament Haki to partially create his Gear 4th forms. The issue with this idea is that Robin has never been confirmed as a user of any type of Haki. She's one of the awkward Straw Hats like Frankie, and by awkward I mean very capable fighters of the crew, but who theoretically shouldn't be able to fight as well as they currently do because both Black Maria and Sasaki were Haki users, and yet both got demolished by Robin and Frankie, somehow. But the anime went on to answer the Haki question by giving Robin a red body rather than a black body with very typical devilish colors. And on an artistic note, I love that they set Demonio Robin against a primarily green backdrop. Red and green are complementary colors, they always make each other pop, but it's very difficult to use them together without making it look like Christmas. I'm not particularly convinced I've managed to achieve that. So look, the anime did a great job there. But while the anime does seem to clear up the Haki question, I also think it does an equally as good job of re-asking the question due to the aura effects they add. Because during the Robin and Black Maria fight, the anime chooses to coat Robin in this massive pink aura, which, whilst lovely, is very confusing because this is the traditional signal of Haki in the Wano era of animation. That or Robin learned the Kaioken technique. So to be clear, this aura business does not happen in the manga. Robin does not emit a single drop of aura. This is all animator artistic license, which means that to come to a conclusion, I need to selectively ignore the aura but not ignore the coloring, and so I need to say that Robin's red skin is canon but the Haki is not. But even if we can trust the red coloring, then it raises a completely different question of, well, how did Robin make her skin crimson red? And the first logical conclusion I can come to is that what we're seeing is actually an awakening, which I'm aware is not a very popular idea, but let me explain. Something to keep in mind here is that this would be a Paramecia awakening, not our classic Zoan awakenings, which we all now know contain the funky cloud effect. I'm not suggesting that Robin is like Luffy and has a secret Zoan fruit that allows her to become a literal demon, like the Five Elders may or may not be. What I'm suggesting is something far more creative and appropriate, because Paramecia awakenings are now quite unpredictable. There was a time when we thought they all functioned more or less the same, largely thanks to Doflamingo and Katakuri's awakenings, which did function pretty much the same way, by turning the environment around them into their respective thing it is that they generated. Which, to be fair, Luffy's awakening also does as a bonus ability even though he's a mythical Zoan. But Wano really expanded Paramecia awakenings with Trafalgar Law and Eustace Kid, which gave the two of them an expanded set of specific abilities that may or may not have been a response to their own personal needs and desires. And with this, I'm thinking of Law especially with the Reroom, which was inspired by the Devil Fruit abilities of Rocinante. And so it presents the idea that Devil Fruit awakenings are not set in stone, and each individual user has the capacity to forge their own path path forward, so long as they possess the right combination of willpower and creativity. Which takes us back to Robin. Traditionally, Robin is only capable of conjuring body parts that are an exact replica of her existing Robin bits, and in the case of Gigante Fleur, it's still her body but scaled up. Although it also makes me wonder if Robin could do the reverse. Could she create mini clones with some sort of tiny Fleur technique? Perhaps a pequeña Fleur, which by the way is Spanish for tiny. But Robin has always been heavily restricted by only being able to use her own existing parts. Whereas with Demonio Fleur, it looks like Robin has been given access to her own character creation screen. Robin now seems capable of augmenting her sprouted body bits according to her own desires, which in this case was to become a demon. And the reason for this is because at the mere age of 8, Nico Robin was labeled the Devil Child as the only scholar to escape O'Hara. And this is where I go on to say my usual thing about how the world government have gone and created their own problems again by Nico Robin fully embracing this designation to the point of becoming a literal demon. It's a lot like Chopper saying that he was willing to become a monster for the sake of Luffy, which he then fulfilled by gaining control of his monster form. And in Robin's case, her explanation is the following: I can be a demon if I have to. I'll do it for the people who truly need me, for the people who are counting on me. And so she did that thing. She became a demon. So this could be an awakening that allows Robin to sprout body parts according to her imagination. And because she imagined herself becoming a demon, that is what became reality, which isn't the same as Luffy's awakening. With him, it looks like Luffy can just magically spawn things into existence as a result of his imagination, whereas what I'm proposing with Robin still works within the boundaries of magical fruit logic. It doesn't allow her to just create anything. Instead, it allows her to customize her own body, to insert some new flora into the old botanical garden, so to speak. And this actually isn't unprecedented. We have seen a devil fruit user innovate their ability to the point of becoming a recognizable demon before, and that would be with Robin's Wano opponent, Black Maria. Due to the revelation of the 5 Elder Stars on Egghead, every One Piece fan on the internet is now suddenly something of a yokai expert themselves, but we actually got a potent shot of yokai during Onigashima because Black Maria is based on a fusion of 2 different yokai. The first is a Jorogumo, a funky spider that can shapeshift into a beautiful woman in order to seduce, quote, handsome young men looking for love, and then store them for later consumption. Also known as exactly what happened with Sanji during the raid on Onigashima. In fact, the Jorogumo also uses music as a lure, much like how Black Maria does as well because she is a phenomenal shamisen player. But Black Maria also takes inspiration from the Tsuchigumo, a different type of yokai spider capable of creating illusions to ensnare their prey, like how Black Maria conjured illusions of Soul, Clover, and Olvia. So she's 2 yokai, and I honestly think that is just a little bit too greedy, but it doesn't stop there. In addition to this, Black Maria wields a Wanyudo, another type of yokai known for stealing the souls of anyone who gets too close to it, which is why it's especially appropriate that Brook was the one to deal with him because he has the superior soul control. In One Piece, Black Maria's Wanyudo also has an added element of weirdness because the Wanyudo is actually a dude who's eaten a pug smile fruit, which has given him a permanently tiny pug body, and so he runs along the inside like a hamster wheel powering Black Maria's overall weapon, which isn't just another random Oda idea because it is actually a reference to a 4th yokai being the Jinmenken, which are human-faced dogs. So that is now 4 yokai who have effectively been condensed into one character design. And what this tells me is that 1, Oda probably got a bit tired of drawing dinosaurs during Wano and went full force into yokai at the first opportunity to do so. And 2, Black Maria was intended to be a narratively appropriate stepping stone for Robin to embrace her demonic birthright. Brook also refers to all of Black Maria's gal pals as, quote, ghoulies. So all around, this whole event is a bit of a demon fest where Oda dropped Robin into a pot of demonic soup and she emerged thoroughly demonized. So much more layering went into this fight than most people, including myself at the time, appreciated. I do really like that in order to defeat a demon, Robin had to fully embrace her role and become a true demon. Much like how Luffy, the sun god, defeated Enel, a false god on Skypiea. Black Maria presented herself as a demon, lots of demons. She even went so far as to get a dog with a man face to cosplay the Wanyudo, but all of it was hollow, and she was brought down by the power of a real demon. However, one huge question I've left out until now is the speculation over whether or not Demonio Fleur is Robin's actual body, or is it a Robin clone like the Gigante Fleur? This is left almost frustratingly mysterious in the manga because Demonio occupies just under 3 pages of total space, and we don't see Robin activate it. The Demonio form is just suddenly there. We also don't see her deactivate it, and we don't see her regular-sized body anywhere elsewhere controlling it. So as presented to us, it gives the illusion that this is actually Robin. The Demonio Fleur isn't a separate clone, and what we're seeing is Robin literally becoming a demon, which is narratively quite the solid maneuver, because if we saw Robin's Robin's real body controlling Demonio, then it would have taken away from everything she said about becoming a demon. However, it does introduce another layer of speculation. If this was an awakening, it's not out of the question to propose that it does the reverse of the original Hana powers. So instead of allowing Robin to sprout body parts externally, it gives her the ability to manipulate the original flower, her body, and augment it however she sees fit. And something that at first seems to add to that is that Robin was able to talk through her Demonio form, but if you go back on One Piece, Robin has always been able to talk through her clones. We first saw this during Fishman Island, when she created a clone to interrupt the fight between Luffy and Jinbei, essentially luring Sanji to get between them. And from what we see of Gigante Fleur, the giant Robin clone always seems to mimic Robin's facial expressions, so the Demonio could be a highly elaborate magical fruit puppet. It's hard to tell exactly what the deal is here, and the anime doesn't make things any clearer either. In the anime, the dust settles, and regular Robin is just standing there, which could imply either possibility, that she was controlling a giant demon clone, or she became a giant demon thing. I think the more straightforward Occam's razor explanation is that Demonio was a giant clone, which would also fit quite nicely into the theming of the Black Maria fight, which contained a huge layer of psychological warfare. Earlier, I briefly touched on Black Maria's weird ability to create illusions and how she tried and failed to deceive Robin by conjuring all these figures from her childhood. But to add to this throughout the whole affair, Black Maria kept attacking Robin with bad words, diminishing her, and even stating that she was dead weight on the Straw Hat crew, which is the sort of thing that would have been really effective on Robin prior to any Slobby. Back then, she was quite easily manipulated by others due to her own lack of self-worth. But by Wano, mate, Robin has evolved. And Black Maria even challenged her to do just that by saying the following: "Go on, little flower, bloom in the midst of this sea of flames. Actually, can flowers bloom while on fire? I suppose you'll have to show me, hee hee." And Robin does exactly that. A flower blooms in the midst of hell. So it's almost as if Robin came up with this form in direct response to Black Maria. She chose this form deliberately as a method of psychological warfare. Robin did the same thing that Black Maria tried to do to her, except in the case of Robin, the illusion actually worked. Right before the Demonio Fleur appeared, Robin conducted a curious maneuver by smashing the roof of the room that they were in, which had the effect of putting out Black Maria's fire, but it also created an important distraction. Black Maria looked up to witness the attack, and when she looked back down, what she saw was a giant demon, forcing Black Maria's attention elsewhere, whilst Robin ran off stage and left the Demonio Fleur there, which then goes on to completely fool Black Maria, as well as break God knows how many bones in her half-woman, half-spider body, but it had the effect of diminishing Black Maria's self-worth and to make her feel like the powerless dead weight that she accused Robin of being. So Robin doesn't just win the physical fight, she also wins the mental fight, which is actually very important. To bring the discussion back to Haki, Robin simply should not be able to defeat an opponent who can use Haki. However, given that Haki is directly tied to willpower, one pretty decent path to victory would be to remove the will of the Haki user. So if Robin could actually convince Black Maria that yes, demons exist and yes, I am one of them, and furthermore, you, Black Maria, am powerless to stop me, then that whole Haki thing is no longer a big issue. Which might be why Robin chose to conjure such a stereotypical form, the horns and the wings. Neither of them really add a lot to the logistical output of the form. In fact, the wings theoretically add an unnecessary vulnerability, but it all goes towards selling the illusion of a demon. And if you've got no wings, then mate, you're just a big naked woman, and Black Maria has seen plenty of that. But whether this is a clone, or whether it's Robin's actual body, I personally don't think there's a good explanation for Demonio Fleur that doesn't involve an awakening. It just seems like too much of an expansion of the fruit's base abilities. And even if this is, not an official awakening, it is still a heavily increased utility that makes it an effective awakening. However, the Grand Fleet disagrees quite strongly with me on this one. We had 28,000 people vote, and 51% of you believe it's not an awakening, whilst 23% think it is, and then there's that 26% of people who chose maybe, which is the most cowardly of all the responses. But over half the people strongly believe that this is an awakening. No, the other one. But over half of people strongly believe that this is not an awakening. However, despite that strong belief, almost no one had a suggestion as to what it actually could be. There were very few logical explanations for how this occurred. I think the best explanation I got is that it's more of a gear-like ability. It's using her powers in an unpredictable/intelligent way, to me at least, which I can definitely see, but in that case it would still make Demonio Fleur a step towards a full awakening, because Luffy's gears were all steps towards him slowly unlocking his full Sun God form, like collecting all 5 pieces of Exodia that culminated in Gear 5th. And it should be said that we were actively lied to about Luffy's Devil Fruit. At the time, yeah, it looks like he was finding really clever ways to use rubber, and look, he was, but his actual Devil Fruit ability was to bring his imagination into reality. His cleverness was augmented by a very helpful reality-bending fruit. Luffy has a devil fruit that gets to break all the rules, and unless Robin is secretly a mythical Zoan as well, perhaps a devil Zoan devil fruit, which would be fun, but if not, she needs to stick to the rules. And Demonio Fleur does exactly not that. It allows Robin to far exceed the limitations of the Hana Hana no Mi, which to me says awakening. This moment on Wano was Robin fully accepting her role in this world as a demon, and at the very least she was metaphorically awakening that demon, but also potentially quite literally. And so you let me know in the comments, do you think that Demonio Fleur is an awakening? And more importantly, when 51% of you inevitably say no, tell me why.